Hello everyone, this is Dr. Vigneshwar Meka, Assistant Professor of Geography, Government Degree College for Women's, Begumpet. In this session, the part 3 video of atmospheric composition and structure, we will focus on the structure of the atmosphere. Based on the temperature characteristics and height, the structure of the atmosphere can be divided into the following 5 layers. They are Troposphere, Stratosphere, Mesosphere, Thermosphere, and Exosphere. The figure on the screen discloses you about the vertical structure of the Earth's atmosphere. First, we will look into the troposphere. Troposphere, it is eight kilometers at the poles and 18 kilometers at the equator. The thickness is greater at the equator because of the heated air that rises to greater heights. The troposphere ends with the tropopause, and the tropopause is the boundary layer between the troposphere and stratosphere. The temperature in this layer, as one goes upward, falls at the rate of 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. And this is called the normal temperature lapse rate or the positive lapse rate. It is minus 45 degrees Celsius at the poles and minus 80 degrees Celsius over the equator at tropopause. The greater fall in the temperature above equator is because of the greater thickness of troposphere, that is about 18 kilometers. The troposphere is marked by the temperature inversion, turbulence, and eddies. It is also meteorologically the most significant zone in the entire atmosphere, because all weather phenomena like cyclones, rainfall, fog, and hailstorms, etc., are confined to this troposphere. It is also called the convective region since all convection stops in the troposphere, tropopause. Tropopause, it is the topmost layer of the troposphere. It acts as a boundary between troposphere and stratosphere, and this layer is marked by constant temperature. The next is the stratosphere. This layer lies beyond tropopause up to an altitude of 50 kilometers from the surface of the Earth. The temperature in this layer remains constant for some distance, but then rises to reach a level of 0 degrees Celsius at 50 kilometers altitude, that is at upper part of the stratosphere. This rise is due to the presence of ozones, that is harmful ultraviolet radiation is absorbed by the ozone. This layer is almost free from clouds and associated weather phenomena, making conditions most ideal for the flying aeroplanes. So, the aeroplanes fly in the lower stratosphere, sometimes in the upper troposphere, where the weather is calm. Sometimes cirrus clouds are present at lower levels in the stratosphere. The Ozonosphere. It lies at an altitude between 20 kilometers and 55 kilometers from the Earth's surface and spans the stratosphere and lower mesosphere, but the highest concentration occurs between 20 kilometers and 30 kilometers. Because of the presence of ozone molecules, this layer absorbs and reflects the harmful ultraviolet radiation. The temperature rises at a rate of 5 degrees Celsius per kilometer through the ozone sphere. The ionization, ozone sphere is also called the chemosphere because of a lot of chemical activity takes place in this layer. Ultraviolet light splits O2 into individual oxygen atoms. The atomic oxygen then combines with the unbroken O2 to create ozone, that is O3. The ozone molecule is unstable, although in the stratosphere, long-lived. And when the ultraviolet light hits ozone, it splits into a molecule of O2 and an individual atom of oxygen, that is ozone-oxygen cycle. The stratospheric ozone depletion is caused by the chlorofluorocarbons, bromofluorocarbons, and other ozone depleting substances that increase the concentration of the chlorine and bromine radicals. Each of these radicals initiates and catalyzes a chain reaction capable of breaking down over 1 lakh ozone molecules. The next is the Mesosphere. Mesosphere. Most of the meteors burn up in this layer and entering from the space. Temperature drops with the increasing altitude to the mesopause. Mesopause is the coldest place on the Earth and has an average temperature around minus 85 degrees. And mesopause acts as the boundary line between stratosphere and mesosphere and thermosphere. Just below the mesopause, the air is so cold that even the very scarce water vapor at this altitude can be sublimated into polar mesoscopic noctilucent clouds. These are the highest clouds and may be visible to the naked eye during sunset and sunrise. The fourth is the thermosphere, lies between 80 to 800 kilometers, and in thermosphere, temperatures rise very rapidly with the increasing height because of radiation from the sun. Ionosphere is a part of this layer. It extends between 80 to 400 kilometers. Though the temperature is high, the atmosphere is extremely rarefied. Gas molecules are spaced hundreds of kilometers apart. Hence, a person or an object in this layer does not feel the heat. The International Space Stations and satellites orbit in this layer. Auroras are observed in lower parts of this layer. The Kármán line, located within the atmosphere at an altitude of 100 kilometers, is commonly used to define the boundary between Earth's atmosphere and outer space. By international convention, this marks the beginning of space where human travelers are considered astronauts. And then the fifth is the Exosphere. Exosphere. This is the uppermost layer of the atmosphere extending beyond the ionosphere above a height of about 1800 kilometers. The air is extremely rarefied and temperature gradually increases through the layer. Light gases like helium and hydrogen float into the space from here. Temperature gradually increases through the layer as it is exposed to direct sunlight. And this layer coincides with space. The mass of the Earth's atmosphere is distributed approximately as follows. 50% of the atmosphere is below the 6 kilometers, 90% of the atmosphere is below the 16 kilometers, and 99.99% of the atmosphere is below 100 kilometers. That is the Karman line. The modern views regarding the structure of the atmosphere. On the basis of its chemical composition, the atmosphere is divided into two broad spheres, namely one, Homosphere, and two is Heterosphere. And let us discourse about these two in detail. The Homosphere, this is the lower part of the atmosphere, extends up to a height of about 88 kilometers. It is characterized by uniformity in composition. In other words, the proportions of the component gases of this sphere are uniform at different levels. In fact, the term homosphere means the zone of the homogeneous composition. The homosphere has been subdivided into three sublayers: A. Troposphere, B. Stratosphere, and C. Mesosphere. Each sublayer is separated from the adjoining one by a very shallow transition zone. Tropopause, stratopause, and mesopause represent such transition zones. The second is the Heterosphere, and the atmosphere above the homosphere is not uniform in its composition. It has heterogeneous composition, hence the name Heterosphere came. Different layers of the atmosphere in this part differ from one another in their chemical and physical properties. The Heterosphere is also referred to as Thermosphere, but in this layer, temperature goes on rising up to the outermost boundary of the atmosphere. It may be remained that in the upper parts of the atmosphere, where the gases are so rarefied, the highest temperatures are caused exclusively by the photochemical actions of the ultraviolet solar radiation. In this Heterosphere, the gases are said to be arranged into the following four roughly sphere cells, each of which has its own distinctive composition. They are nitrogen layer, oxygen layer, helium layer, and hydrogen layer. The lowest layer, dominated by the molecular nitrogen, is called the nitrogen layer. Its average height above the Earth's surface is said to be from 88 to 200 kilometers. Above this layer is the oxygen layer, consisting of atomic oxygen, whose average height above the surface is estimated to be from 200 to 1120 kilometers. This layer is overlaid by the helium layer, which is dominated by the helium. Its average height above the Earth's surface is from 1120 to 3520 kilometers. At the top, there is the hydrogen layer extending up to the outermost boundary of the outer sphere, our atmosphere. Its principal component part is hydrogen. The various layers of the gases have been found to be arranged in accordance with the weight of the different gases. Nitrogen, being the heaviest, makes up the lower layer, and hydrogen, being the highest, is the fourth and the highest layer. Next, we will focus on the importance of the Earth's atmosphere. The Earth is unique among plants as it has life, and life on Earth would not have been possible if not for the present state of the atmosphere. The atmosphere helps or assists in the following ways. Life-giving gases, regulates the entry of the solar radiation, temperature balance, maintains, blocks harmful radiation, shields the Earth from the impact objects, comprises the weather and climate phenomena. Water on Earth exists in liquid state because of the atmosphere and scattering of the light. Now, let us discuss about each of these benefits in detail. Life-giving gases. Plants require carbon dioxide to survive, while animals and many other organisms need oxygen for their survival. Nitrogen is fixed by the bacteria and lightning to produce ammonia, used in the construction of nucleotides and amino acids, and regulates the entry of solar radiation. All life forms need a particular range of temperature. All life forms need a particular range of temperature and a specific range of frequencies of solar radiation to carry out their biological process. The atmosphere absorbs certain frequencies and lets through some other frequencies of solar radiation. In other words, the atmosphere regulates the entry of solar radiation. Then temperature balances. The atmosphere also keeps the temperature over the Earth's surface within certain limits. In the absence of the atmosphere, extremes of the temperature would exist between day and night. Atmosphere blocks harmful radiation. The atmosphere helps to protect living organisms from genetic damage by solar, ultraviolet radiation, solar wind, and cosmic rays. Atmosphere shields the Earth from the impact objects. The atmosphere also takes care of extraterrestrial objects like meteors, which get burnt up while passing through the atmosphere, that is Mesosphere to precise, due to the friction. Weather and climate. Weather is another important phenomenon which dictates the direction of many natural and human-made processes like plant growth, agriculture, soil formation, human settlements, etc. Various climatic factors join together to create weather. Water on the Earth exists in liquid state because of the atmosphere. Since liquids cannot exist without pressure, an atmosphere allows liquid to be present at the surface, resulting in the lakes, rivers, and oceans. Earth and Titan are known to have liquids at their surfaces, and the terrain on the planet suggests that the Mars had liquid on its surface in the past. So the scientific investigations are also taking place on the planet Mars. The atmosphere scatters the light. When light passes through the Earth's atmosphere, photons interact with it through the scatter. On an overcast, there is no direct radiation as it has all been scattered by clouds. Due to a phenomenon called the Rayleigh scattering, shorter wavelengths scatter more easily than longer wavelengths. This is why the sky looks blue. You are seeing scattering blue light. This is also why sunsets are red, because the sun is close to the horizon. The sun's rays pass through more atmosphere than a normal to are. Much of the blue light has been scattered out, leaving the red light in a sunset. The picture on the screen discloses you about the Rayleigh scattering, blue skies and red sunsets. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.